Every football fan has had the same thought. You win the lottery, you buy the club, you sign whoever you want, and 60,000 people sing your name. And then the strangest thing in modern finance happens to you. You start losing money. Not in a bad year, every single year, on purpose, as a way of life. And the only way you ever get it back is if you find one other person willing to pay even more than you did, because a football club is not really a business. It is the most expensive trophy on earth and one of the strangest assets in modern finance. So before you buy one, you run the numbers. We already did. By the end of this, you will know exactly what one costs, who actually gets paid in the richest game in the world, and the single reason billionaires and entire governments will happily lose money on football forever and call it the best deal they ever made. Let us start with the price, because there is a ladder here, and almost everyone pictures only the very top rung. At the bottom is the non-league or lower division club. A few $100,000 to a few £1,000,000 buys you a real club, real fans, a crumbling little stand, and a permanent hole in your bank account. This is the local businessman's toy. You will be the most important man in town, and you will never see the money again. One rung up is the championship, England's second tier, and this is the rung that ruins people. It is not a stepping stone. It is a trap with a golden door at the end of it. A club here might cost you 50 to 200 million pounds, and then it asks you to lose another 100 million chasing promotion, because the prize for going up is so enormous that owners spend themselves to the edge of ruin trying to reach it. Most fail. Some go bankrupt in the attempt. Then comes the Premier League, the promised land. The cheapest seat at that table now runs to around 500 million pounds, because the moment you are in that league, the television money alone changes your life, and the wage bill arrives with it. A Premier League squad costs between 150 and 700 million pounds a year in salaries alone. Not transfer fees, just wages. Every year, win or lose, relegated or champions, and even the Premier League is not the top of the ladder. Above it sit the flagships, the global super clubs. Manchester United, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern, Liverpool, Manchester City. On the rare occasion one changes hands at all, it goes for 4, 5, 6 billion pounds and climbing. At that level, the price has almost nothing to do with how good the team is this season. There are only a handful of these clubs on the planet. Almost none of them are ever for sale, and that is precisely why they are worth a fortune. But here is the first thing that makes a football club unlike any other asset you will ever own. You cannot move it. In American sport, if your city stops paying, you load the team onto a truck and drive it to one that will. In football, that is unthinkable. The club is bolted to its town, its streets, its grandparents. The fans were there before you, and they will be there long after you are gone, and they know it. You own the shares, they own the soul. And the second strange thing is that the league you are in is worth more than the club itself. English football's television deal is worth more than £3 billion a season, carved up among the clubs at the top. The exact same team, with the exact same players, is worth several times more inside the Premier League than one division below it. The real jackpot sits one level higher still, in the Champions League, where qualifying can be worth £100 million in a single season, and missing out can quietly break your entire model. Your club's value is not really set by you. It is set by which trapdoor you happen to be standing on. So how do you actually get hold of one? There are 3 real ways in, and only one of them tends to end well. The first is to buy a broken club cheap and gamble. You find a distressed team in a lower division, buy it for a song, and bet your own fortune that you can spend your way up into the television money. This is a lottery ticket dressed as a business plan. For every owner who wins it, several drive their club into administration trying. The second is to buy an established club and finally run it, on purpose, like a business. This is the American model. In 2005, the Glazer family bought Manchester United for around £800 million, and they did it by borrowing against the club itself, loading their own purchase price onto United's books as debt. The Fenway Group bought Liverpool and ran it on data and discipline. Stan Kroenke holds Arsenal as one line in a global sports portfolio. To these owners, a club is a franchise, a brand to be optimized, leveraged, and one day sold at a profit. And the third way in has rewritten the entire sport, and it is barely a business decision at all. It is to buy a football club not as a person, but as a country. Abu Dhabi bought Manchester City. Qatar bought Paris Saint-Germain. Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund, the government's own investment arm, worth more than every club in the Premier League put together, bought Newcastle. These owners are not chasing profit, and the losses do not trouble them in the slightest. They are not buying a team. They are buying the most watched stage on the planet, and what they do with that stage is the entire point. That is the version you hear on the stadium tour. Here is the part that explains the price. Start with the man who proved the whole thing works. In 2003, a Russian oligarch named Roman Abramovich bought Chelsea for around £140 million. Over the next 20 years, he poured an estimated £1.5 billion of his own money into the club, in loans and transfers and losses that never came back. By any normal measure, it was a catastrophe. And then in 2022, he was forced to sell, and Chelsea went for £4.25 billion. On paper, he made a fortune, but only because someone else was willing to pay even more than he had. That is the entire business model. There is no other one. A football club does not generate a return on investment. It generates appreciation, and only if you can find a buyer at the right moment willing to value the dream more than the reality. And underneath that dream sit some of the most reliable foundations in modern media. The first is the broadcast floor. In the Premier League, even the club that finishes dead last collects well over £100 million a year in television money before it sells a single ticket, floated by a global audience that will somehow watch a wet Monday night match in numbers a Hollywood studio would kill for. The second is the brand, and this is where the giants live. Manchester United and Real Madrid each carry hundreds of millions of followers around the world. That is not a sports team. That is a global media company, a merchandising empire, and a soft power machine that happens to play football on the weekend. And the third foundation is the one that never seems to crack. The value just keeps going up. A club worth a few £1 million in the 1990s is worth billions today. The buyers keep coming. The prices keep breaking records, and the owner forced to sell at the top almost always walks away rich, no matter how badly the team played on the way out. So if the money always lands, and the value always climbs, why does anyone ever lose? Because a football club hides two costs that can quietly destroy you, and they are the exact reason the smartest owners treat this thing so carefully. The first exists nowhere else in serious business. Relegation. Finish in the wrong 3 places, and your club drops a division, and £100 million of television money simply evaporates overnight, while the enormous wages you agreed to in the good times stay exactly where they are. The asset you paid £1 billion for can lose a fortune because of a deflected goal in April. The squad does not change. The stadium does not change. The money is simply gone. No other industry on earth ties the value of the company to a sporting result it cannot control. The second cost is that you never really control the thing you own. Spend too freely, and the league's own financial rules turn on you. Clubs have been docked points in public for losing too much money. Spend too little, and the fans turn on you instead, and those fans are not customers you can ignore. When a handful of super clubs tried to break away and form a closed super league, their own supporters burned the plan to the ground in 48 hours. The Glazers have faced years of protests in the very stands they own, because Manchester United has paid more than £1 billion in interest on the debt they used to buy it. Money that never went anywhere near a player. You hold the shares, the crowd holds a veto, and the owners who win at this learned fast that the fans are not a cost to be managed. They are the entire asset. Because here is what the smartest owners worked out a long time ago. and what almost everyone outside the boardroom still gets wrong. You do not buy a football club to make money playing football. As a pure business, it is one of the worst investments in the world. You buy it for what it actually is, and what it actually is depends entirely on who you are. If you are an American investor, you are buying a global brand and a piece of prime real estate that happens to come with a stadium, an asset that appreciates like clockwork, that you can borrow against, list on the stock market, and sell at a record price to the next believer. The football is the marketing. The brand is the business. And if you are a government, you are buying something no amount of oil money can otherwise purchase. You are buying the affection of the entire planet. A struggling former mining town in the north of England now sings the praises of Abu Dhabi every single week. A nation accused of terrible things on the front page becomes, on a Saturday, the team your children love on the back one. The hundreds of millions in losses are not a cost at all. They are the cheapest marketing and diplomacy budget a country has ever found. The money, in other words, was never in the football. The football is the part the fans argue about on a Monday morning. The real prize is the attention, the brand, and the goodwill of a few billion people, and what a clever owner or a clever country can quietly do with all of it. For most of the last century, owning a club was a local rich man's hobby. Those men are gone. In their place sit American hedge funds, private equity firms, and the sovereign wealth of entire nations, all of whom worked out that the most watched game on earth had been run for decades like a charity. So here is the question. If someone handed you the keys to a club tomorrow, your name on the badge, a whole city living and dying with every result, what kind of owner would you actually be? Would you chase the trophy, spend everything you have, and pray you are never relegated? Or would you do what the smart money does? Treat it as the global asset it really is, and let the most watched game on the planet quietly make you richer or more powerful than the football ever could? Tell me in the comments which one you would be. I genuinely want to know.